Hi everyone, I'm Shapur from Australian Property Market Analyst, here with a very important update on pre-election policy releases from political parties. Well, Coalition announced last week that owner-occupier buyers will be given access to part of their super funds for the purchase of their first home. Let's have a glance at some details. Based on this new policy, if Coalition wins the federal election as of the 1st of July 2023, first-home buyers will be able to use up to 40% of the super with a maximum amount of $50,000, of course, to put towards buying a home. The only limit being they must already have a minimum of 5% deposit for the purchase. By the way, there are no age, property type, location, or income thresholds for purchasers to be considered eligible for this scheme. Let's see what the Prime Minister is claiming about the scheme. First, the scheme would slash the time needed to save a house deposit by 3 years on the average. Second, the scheme is not going to be detrimental to retirees' super, as whatever amount is invested will be returned to the super when they sell the home, including the share of the capital gain from the sale of that home. The third claim is the government will minimize any potential price impact with supply-side policies aimed to encourage older Australians to downsize their houses and limits on how much super can be withdrawn. And fourth, the scheme is a step towards equality and affordability. It's going to improve equality and affordability in housing in Australia. Now, what are opponents saying about this scheme? Even the Superannuation Minister, Jane Hume, says there'd likely be a bump in house prices in the short term. Also, Shadow Housing Minister Jason Clare described the policy as the last desperate act of a dying government, and that it add fuel to the fire of house prices and drive them up. He believes if this was a good idea, the government would have done it years ago, not 6 days before the election. On a similar note, Industry Super Australia has also warned the program would both escalate property prices and drag borrowers' retirement outcomes. Also, the Financial Service Council, that's FSC, has rejected this scheme and said it would undermine the purpose of the superannuation system and weaken its ability to provide higher standards of living in retirement. Now, what are research studies and data saying about this scheme? An analysis from CoreLogic has noted that the scheme would likely add to demand and feed house price growth, but it would be unlikely to provide much help in buyers' deposits, unlike what's claimed about the scheme by the coalition. Super withdrawals would cover only 1% of younger buyers' deposits, meaning that, unlike what is claimed, the scheme would not, on average, spare buyers 3 years to save a deposit. The CoreLogic analysis also concluded that buyers would be able to withdraw up to a maximum of $50,000 would have to hold a larger saving in their super account, meaning that the scheme would be more advantageous for higher income earners, putting under question the claim that the scheme would be a step towards equality. Using ABS data, CoreLogic has found that there is a considerable difference between men and women in terms of the super savings, and this causes women in all age brackets to get a smaller deposit to buy a house under the scheme. Likewise, according to data from the Association of Super Funds of Australia, the average 30 to 34-year-old male has more than $51,000 in super, meaning they can withdraw more than $20,000 under the coalition's policy, while the average female in this age bracket would only be able to pull more than $16,000 out of their $42,000 super balance, simply meaning the scheme is biased towards men and against women. As for supply-side concerns, data shows that the government supply measure only extends downsizing to 1.3 million households, while potentially allowing approximately 5.3 million under 35-year-old Australians access to superannuation to buy a first home, simply creating doubts about the claim that the government's taking care of the supply to prevent price hikes. Earlier this year, the McKell Institute and Centre for Housing, Urban and Regional Planning at the University of South Australia modeled the impact of allowing prospective home buyers access to superannuation, and found that access to $40,000 from super would encourage the take-up of more than $73 billion in new housing debt, causing a price surge in the first year of the policy. According to this model, the biggest price impact would be in Brisbane, where the median house price was estimated to rise more than $99,000, followed by Hobart with an estimate of more than $92,000 increase, and then Adelaide with an estimate of more than $84,000 increase, and Perth $57,000, and Sydney more than $45,000 increase in prices. The model has shown that allowing couples to withdraw up to $40,000 from their super would contribute to a rise in the median property price across the 5 major capital cities, varying between 8 to 16%. The report also concluded that, given the historical stronger performance of super compared to real housing market returns, individuals accessing super for housing are likely to end up financially worse off in the end. What we learned from this whole thing is this scheme will definitely worsen affordability due to price hikes, will exacerbate inequality in terms of age, gender, and of course, will most probably favor the well-off. Yet again, let's remember that many young Australians would definitely prefer to get access to the super funds now, and for this reason, I reckon this scheme would ultimately make a big difference in the number of votes for coalition.